Yes, CBS News is facing a major FCC investigation into their dissemination of the news and the way that they perhaps colluded with the left. But that's not all. They also have a $20 billion lawsuit from the President of the United States. But of course, you may have already known all of that. What if we told you there's something else? It turns out there's another FCC petition, and it is to stop the sale of CBS to Skydance, all based on connections with China. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a joy as ever to endeavor explaining entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve, and we are happy to be enjoined with you today. We hope things are going A-OK in your life. Folks, if you would not mind, help us with the strife of continuing to fight for truth in entertainment coverage by clicking the like button. Today, we are going to get underway, and we have the joy of spending time with Ron Coleman. He is an attorney who has represented President Trump in the past. Great insights from Ron, and I think you're going to be surprised by what he has to say about the CBS situation. Get ready. It's a great conversation, and it's coming your way right now. All right, folks, let's dive into this CBS thing because there's new news breaking, and there's some background that's been sent my way that helps explain what's going on and why Skydance and Paramount are at they're at the precipice here, and I don't think people fully understand it. So we're going to get this broken down for you so that now you know what's going on with the situation. I think it really is getting to an existential kind of place right now. So this is out of the New York Post. It's from Reuters. It says CBS urges the FCC to reject news distortion complaint over 60 Minutes Harris interview. All right, here's what it says. CBS on Monday urged the Federal Communications Commission to reject a complaint over a 60 Minutes interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris, saying the agency has no lawful role in policing broadcast news editorial decisions. CBS, which is owned by Paramount Global, and that's important, said sanctioning the company over the interview would blatantly violate the First Amendment by substituting the government's editorial judgment for that of CBS and its journalists. Now, folks, if you've not seen it, many people have, and they have deep concerns about the way the Kamala Harris interview was modified. And the way that this was caught was actually very interesting because CBS actually aired two different versions, two completely different answers on two different programs. And that's how this got out there. A complaint alleges the interview violates the FCC's rules on news distortion. The network broadcast a portion of the vice president's answer on Face the Nation and a different one on 60 Minutes. The allegation, by the way, at least from President Trump, is that this amounted to election interference. So it's a big deal. CBS engaged in ordinary editorial decision-making that involved no distortion, the company said, adding that the FCC complaint completely disregards both the letter and the spirit of the commission's news distortion policy. Now, what you need to know about this, ladies and gentlemen, is that CBS, which is CBS Viacom, is owned currently by Paramount, and all of it is for sale, and it was basically a done deal to go to Skydance, which is owned by essentially the fourth richest family, at least in the nation, maybe in the world. But, that's a little tricky when we start talking about despots who often have illicit means of having wealth. But at least in America, probably the fourth richest family in the world owns Skydance, and they were the Ellisons. They were getting ready to take over CBS and have it. Now, this FCC complaint deal, if we go here, we can take a look actually at the original complaint that was put down during the Biden administration. And then the Biden administration, and apologies, folks, on how small this is. We'll read it so you understand it. Not all of it, of course. So there's a lot here. But this was put forth during the Biden administration, and then it was set aside and with no intent to ever return to it until the presidential election meant that Trump came in, leadership at the FCC changed, and suddenly this was reopened. It says this was back from February 5th, and I'm going to tell you why things are heating up. This was back from February 5th. It says FCC establishes MB docket number 2573 and comment cycle for news distortion complaint involving CBS Broadcasting Incorporated, licensee of WCBS New York, New York. Now, here's why this is getting more interesting. The comments were due March 7th. That's now ended. The reply comments are now coming in, and that's what we're getting from CBS. They're due by the 24th. So all of this is getting ready to wrap up. The reason all of this matters so much is because if you pay attention to who filed this docket originally in October, the Center for American Rights. And if we go to the Center for American Rights and we take a look at one of their other petitions that they've given to the FCC, all of this comes to a high level of clarity exactly what's playing out and why CBS is in real trouble. Let me read this. This is a separate petition with the FCC, separate from this, but from the same organization that's filing both. It says the Center for American Rights from December 17th filed a petition with the Federal Communications Commission calling for strict conditions on the proposed ownership transfer involving Skydance Media and Paramount Global. CAR, the Center for American Rights, urges the new corporation to demonstrate how it will protect content from undue foreign influence, promote viewpoint diversity on the airwaves, and treat all employees equally without regard to race or gender. The petition asks the commission, the FCC, this is an additional petition, to place the approval, this is the approval for the purchase, Skydance buying Paramount in an official merger, but it gives them CBS. The petition asks the commission to place the approval on a probationary status. Here's what matters: for an appropriate period of years until compliance with the conditions is evident. And if you read through it, we're not going to go through it all, but if you read through it, it talks about Chinese bias and influence. Essentially, if CBS is not allowed to be purchased for a number of years until it can be proven to the FCC that it does not have Chinese influence and that it's not acting in a way that is contrary to the public interest, and this is required because it's a network, what that would do is it would likely scuttle the deal with Skydance. And because Paramount currently has a $20 billion lawsuit aimed at them from President Trump over election interference, that is a value that exceeds the total value of the company. So there are two threats here. One is they face an existential lawsuit with a value that exceeds them. And the second is that the way to get out of this, which is to be sold to a company that might be able to deal with it, seems to be under fire from the same organization that's having success with the other petition. I hope I've made this clear. It's a little bit complicated. Let me get the panel to weigh in on this and your thoughts about, I guess, maybe Ron, you can weigh in. Does this seem frivolous? Is it something that can easily be petitioned on a regular basis that has no merit? I mean, the fact that one of these is getting such traction is what makes it newsworthy. What are your thoughts on all of this as we've read it?
It's frivolous.
Walk us through why.
Well, the challenge to the merger is less frivolous than the complaint about 60 Minutes. But they're related. I think they use the complaint. I think the idea of the 60 Minutes complaint was probably to put a little bit of weight on the assertion that CBS is a bad actor, and that the FCC should take a hard look about the acquisition. I think these acquisition rules are outdated. There are serious questions. I mean, the entire Federal Communications Act is ridiculous. It's premised on the government allocation of the radio spectrum, frequency spectrum.
Right, the airwaves and all of that. Yeah.
Right. Broad, spectrum scarcity, no longer technologically relevant, no longer economically, commercially, and culturally nearly as relevant, and they need major reform. Unfortunately, we do not have a working legislative branch anymore, so I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime. But I do think that although it's not a crazy political move to have filed these two things in tandem or relatively in tandem, there is no way, and I know Brendan Carr, and I'd be surprised if he lets this go through. I know that he's been pretty strong on the MAGA front since he's been appointed FCC commissioner, and he's doing what he was appointed to do. But and technically reading the FCC licensing rules, it is a problem to distort news, and you're sending false signals, basically, right? But who are we kidding? I mean, we simply can't live in a world where the government decides whether your news is being distorted or not. I think the public press. I mean, I was actually very surprised that CBS released the full interview. I was.
Did they have to, Ron, when the FCC requested it? Did they have to release that at that point?
They might have had to. I don't know that they had to, and I think of that. And I haven't really studied communications law in a long, long time. But if I would have thought that if they had concluded that they had to, that they might have sought a court order, which I think they probably could have gotten. That it might be that they were concerned that would be a bad look, but the FCC just has no business doing this. I mean, there's potentially no end to it. And even though it's true that CBS lies and lies and lies and NBC lies, first of all, let's talk about it. Technically speaking, CBS is a company that owns a network which includes stations that are licensed. CBS is not a licensee. It's the owner of affiliated stations, and those stations have licenses. Number two, going back to my main point, though, the FCC cannot operate as a censor. It's not the 1930s. It's First Amendment law simply can't tolerate it. And if Brendan Carr pushes on this, I think he's going to end up with egg on his face. I don't think that the courts are going to back him up on it.
So, Ron, I'm actually really loving this conversation. Let's slightly shift from the principled to the pragmatic. Pragmatically, if the FCC, even if it, in your view, is not acting in an appropriate fashion, or maybe even a wise fashion, maybe this blows back on them later. If the FCC slows this down and causes Sherry Redstone, for example, who
the acquisition piece. Okay,
right. What do you think the impact there is if the FCC causes there to be a greater incentive for settlement with the Trump lawsuit? And I don't know if you can talk about that. I don't know.
I'm not involved, and I don't know anything about it. I think it is. Look, there are a lot of people in MAGA world who believe we should be every bit as brass-knuckled and tough. You know, it's a warfare situation. They want to kill us, yada, yada. I think we need to follow the law and follow the Constitution. I think you're right. It is possible to slow it down. There's no question it's possible to slow it down. But unless the long game here is to get us in a place where the courts or the public or even Congress decide that the FCC has outlived its uselessness, its usefulness, which is a distinct possibility.
Yeah, it might be attached to the old Department of Education, eh?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that I might be a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but unless that's the end game here, the whole thing's a terrible idea. But I think the straightforward answer to your question is, yeah, they could slow it down, but I think that would be a terrible shame, a terrible abuse of government power.
Well, let me get the rest of the panel in to talk to us for a minute about with sort of the non-legal expertise, guys in the domain of public opinion. How do you see this affecting CBS? And does it turn them into martyrs from the left? Does it cause them to be seen as the most partisan part of the legacy media? Like, how is this playing out, you think, in terms of viewership and impact on the ratings for CBS News versus ABC, et cetera?
You know, there's a lot of things going on. there's a lot of things
No,
going on here at once. Sorry about that, Jonas. But you've got, of course, the Ellisons trying to, make a deal with the administration. Oh, bye, Ron.
Yep. Just a heads up, folks. Ron gave us a bit of information. He's got a legal. Well, I'll just leave it at that. Ron had to leave pretty quickly.
Yeah. So no, this is one of those. This is one of those situations where there's a lot of things going on. The administration was going to be enjoying a partnership with the Ellison family in whatever sense you want to look at it, in regards to AI, right? You had a lot of other things going on there as well. You also have the CBS deal, entirely separate, because they're owned by Paramount. From that situation, you have the administration suing CBS for basically the coverage that they did, which is not only a violation of obviously their way that they portray the news, but also an election commission FEC violation in regards to how they were covering uh, Kamala. So you have many different things happening at the same time. If the cost of this lawsuit exceeds the value of all of the assets of Paramount, they obviously want to get that settled before anybody acquires this, because you don't want to saddle Oracle or whoever it really is, because I know it's Skydance, but it's ultimately that family cadre of money. You don't really necessarily want to saddle them with that expense. So I think they're going to have to shake this out by the numbers and delay it, not just because of this particular FCC issue, but I think it's more likely to be delayed because of an unsettled legal claim, and that needs to be resolved before the acquisition. Or there are many other things here. I wish Ron was going to be here to speak to that, but I think that that's more pressing for them to get resolved before this acquisition can be made, because you don't want that kind of legal liability hanging out there in space. I mean, who would that be assigned to once the purchase was completed, or the merger in this case, which is basically a purchase?
Jonas, why don't we get you in? I know you had some thoughts on the CBS situation. What are you thinking about this idea that there are two petitions, and the second one may not be as well known, but it could be pertinent to slowing down the sale of CBS, Viacom, Paramount to Skydance, and could have an impact of not millions, but many billions of dollars.
Yeah, the thing that I see in all of this is that CBS did engage in something that was intended to interfere with the election. Now, appears to be intended to interfere with the election. If it was government office,
wait a minute, Jonas, are you countering what Mr. Coleman had to say?
No, I would never. I would never try to disagree with Ron on anything like that. I'm just saying that whatever they did with this interview, it was propaganda, and it was they're allowed to campaign. That's
I agree with you, Jonas.
Yeah, it's a matter of I think it's kind of despicable for people to paint themselves as unbiased and then try to say that no, we are in fact the completely unbiased ones. But by the way, you are absolutely horrible if you disagree with anything we say whatsoever. That is, well, it's CBS for you. When I look at this, I see an issue that it doesn't need to be the government, and it definitely doesn't need to be the Trump administration that goes after CBS for this. Someone else should be the ones to go after them on this if they have a case, if they have standing for that case. I think it comes off as totalitarianism when the administration themselves say, we're going to hold this whole thing up. Because you look at how hard that's going to be for them if this lawsuit happens for, what is it, $20 billion. If they settle, and that's more than the value of the company, that essentially says, well, why don't we just own CBS instead of Skydance getting it? So it would be stealing CBS. Or you could settle for some embarrassing amount of money to go pay for a new wing of the Trump Presidential Library, and then you can have your Skydance. And I mean, it's essentially the death throes of Paramount right now before it gets bought out in its Pretty Woman moment over here. So I think the government might even be able to go after them for this, but I think it's a little ugly, the idea of the back and forth here. I think CBS is in the wrong. I think that even if you have power, it's not always necessary to use that power. I think someone should be doing it on their behalf. That's my general opinion of the situation. And yeah, get your head on right.
Well, folks, we're going to be following this very closely because, again, there is a chance it's existential. And why is it existential? Because the government has the ability, and you heard Ron Coleman, who had to step away due to a scheduling issue, but you heard him say that he doesn't believe the government should do this. So we're not taking a policy position on this. We're not telling you what should happen behind the scenes where the sausage is made. I'm simply saying the government has the ability to take away the network status by revoking the access to the airwaves. That access to the airwaves is a huge deal to these companies. I think it's why Disney is afraid right now of the Trump administration. And that is the existential part CBS has to face. If that were to happen, the value of CBS drops off the face of the earth. It's what we're watching. Is the likelihood high that it happens? No. Is there a reality where it occurs? You bet. And we'll pay attention to it. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on. The best in the new media? Well, we're aiming for it, and we hope you agree. I know, you want more. You want more of the Pro Channel, folks, but we've got to head out the door for this video. But fret not yet, for more content is yet on the way. 3 times a day, thrice as nice, right here on the Pro Channel. Oh, what's that you say? You want more than that? Fine, we'll do 4. 4 videos. Well, yeah, that's happening. Folks, as you get ready to go, consider clicking the like button for us. It is a huge help. Also, like, share, subscribe, and click it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. We would also love it if you could drop on down and give us a comment. We love hearing from you. And although we can't respond to every single comment, we often are reading them indeed. Folks, we would encourage you to consider subscribing to our partner channels, that Park Place, that Game Place, and that Pod Place. We love them all. We think you might too. Until the next time we have the joy of joining with you, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Jump into the water. Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.